I clean Sydney Road and some of the surrounding streets. I often work with our crew, who are a great bunch. They're hard-working, but also up for a laugh, and part of what makes me get out of bed each day. It's really quiet first thing, but there's always a lot to clean. Sometimes it's a bit of a mess, and there's rubbish scattered around. I clean the footpath, the street furniture, the bins, and remove graffiti off public buildings. I like it. It keeps me busy. It feels pretty satisfying to know that at the end of each day I've made Sydney Road look a little better for everyone who lives, works and visits here. Cleaner streets make it a nicer place to shop too, and that helps our local traders. And as everyone starts their day and the shop's open, I get to meet some lovely community members and their dogs. Everyone knows Sydney Road is legendary. We should all show it some love.
Did you know that Merri-bek is home to a diverse community where more than 95 languages are spoken? That's why we offer information on council services in your language. If you received a rates notice that you don't understand, would like to request a new bin, or have another question for council, we can help. We have free in-person and phone interpreters who can help you communicate with staff at council in your language. To request an interpreter, simply call 92401111 and ask one of our customer service staff to organize one for you. You can also request an interpreter at one of our customer service centers, libraries, or maternal and child health centers. At Merri-bek, we're proud of our diverse community and we want to make sure everyone can access our services. For more information about our language services, please visit our website.
Wheel Sisters came about after some women in Fawkner approached us, wanting to learn to ride bikes and also find other women from their own community to ride with, including women who might ride in hijab or an abaya. One of the things that never gets old when you teach people to ride bikes is the sheer thrill they get when they realise they can do it.
The really special thing about teaching both the women in Fawkner and the women here is just the cultural barriers that they face every day, and coming from a place where they never thought they'd ever be able to ride a bike. A lot of them do reflect that it's been their lifelong dream to ride a bike, but they never thought they'd be able to do it. So it's just that extra level of being able to gift that to somebody.
I got really excited when I heard about this program. So I'm almost 40 and I've never ridden a bike. I tried when I was little. Yeah, I still can't believe that I can ride, and yeah, it's been a dream and I'm so glad that it came true.
It was excellent, very special experience for me because it was my childhood wish to learn how to ride a bike.
Yeah, my experience was great because I've never ridden the bike before. So it was like truly empowering for me. And I thought I can't ever learn, but Kaz was really patient and encouraging.
At this age, it's a really courageous thing to learn new things. And any age, anyone can do it if they want it. And willingness is the most important things, and that's I prove myself.
I think it's good health-wise as well as environmentally. It gives me some physical activity to incorporate into my daily routine. I think it was great to find other people like me who have recently learned to ride, and you know, we are all well connected now.
Yeah, after so many years, I'm very grateful to have this opportunity and have trust and faith with us, and they've been amazing, amazing teachers. Everybody should give it a go and see for themselves how easy it is. Because I never thought I could, and I'm able to do it now.
The compost that we receive from Merri-bek Council that's made from the waste from our green bins, the food and organics waste, is a fantastic resource. A lot of carbon, a lot of organic matter that goes to building up the soil here, combined with the compost that we make ourselves. You know, a really brilliant resource for the garden, and it produces fantastic crops, as you can see behind me.
Well, obviously it's really important to compost food. If it's just going into the normal bin, then it's creating all these really bad greenhouse gases and contributing to climate change. But the benefit for community gardens is that we can't generate as much compost on our own, so we need the addition of council compost to help us grow vegetables and renew the soil, so we get the best productivity from the garden.
Sometimes when we get the compost, there's contaminants in it, like plastics, biodegradable bags. Some of them are not quite suitable for the process that the compost goes through. We have to then sort through the compost and pull them out. Otherwise, they're going to contaminate all our vegetables and the earth that we're trying to re-nourish with the compost.
Messages go around on Facebook saying, hey, there's zucchini or cucumbers in the basket at Pentridge, and they're gone in, you know, half an hour later. So we just like to share it with the community, because that's what it's about.
Good evening, councillors and members of the gallery, and to our viewers live streaming tonight's meeting. My name is Councillor Helen Davidson. I'm the Mayor of Merri-bek City Council and chairperson of tonight's council meeting, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all tonight. Council, this meeting is being recorded and web streamed live to Council's website and Facebook. This recording will also be available as video on demand. Attendees are advised that they will be recorded during the meeting. A reminder that as councillors, we'll act in accordance with the Councillor Code of Conduct, which supports principles of leadership and good governance that secures public confidence in the office of councillor. In the event of an emergency or disruption, we may be required to take action to ensure the safety of attendees. For members of the gallery and councillors attending in person, please follow the directions issued by council staff and security officers. Now, I'd like to welcome our councillors who are in attendance tonight. We have the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Helen Politis.
Good evening, everybody.
Councillor Chris Miles.
Hello, everyone.
Councillor Adam Fulford.
Hi, everyone.
Councillor Alice Benson.
Hello, everybody.
Councillor Kat Theodosis.
Good evening, everyone.
Councillor Oscar Yildiz.
Good evening, everyone.
And now we have Councillor Natalie Aboud.
Hello, everyone.
Councillor Sue Bolton.
Hi, everybody.
Councillor Iz Irvin.
Hi, everyone.
And Councillor Iwasaki.
Hello.
And we also have the CEO of Merri-bek, Kathy Henderson, and our senior management team with us this evening for our budget discussions. So there are no apologies from councillors. Now, councillors, are there conflicts of interest to declare? Yes, Councillor
Yes,
Yildiz?
I have a conflict regarding the Sheen Reserve.
Thank you, Councillor Yildiz.
I'm no longer the number one ticket holder, but was when discussions were about their car park. So
I understand, thank you. And Councillor Helen Politis.
Yes, Mayor, I have a conflict of interest to declare with the Brunswick Beethoven Festival.
Thank you, Councillor Helen Politis. So immediately before we consider the item, I'll ask that you provide brief details on the type and nature of the conflict of interest, and then I'll ask you to leave the meeting before this item is moved and return after the item has been considered and voted on. So we have two reports to consider this evening. The first is the proposed Merri-bek City Council 4-year budget 2025 to 2029 for adoption. Does any councillor have a conflict of interest to disclose in relation to this? So we'll turn to Councillor Yildiz, as you mentioned yours earlier.
Yep. Regarding Brunswick Juventus, I have been the number 1 ticket holder. I have resigned a few weeks ago, but in saying that, I still want to declare a conflict of interest.
Thank you. And Councillor Politis, please, the nature of the conflict.
Thank you, Mayor. The nature of the conflict is that I sit on the board of the Brunswick Beethoven Festival. I'm a current board member and I've sat on the board for the last 4 years.
So, councillors, in order to make this run smoothly, my proposal is that we seek agreement to separate these parts of the budget relating to Desheen Reserve, the upgrade and car park upgrade, and also the Beethoven Music Festival. So that way we'll enable the councillors to participate in the remainder of the proposed budget. So now, Councillor Yildiz, can I ask that you remove yourself from the chamber and we'll close the door behind Councillor Yildiz. Thank you. Councillors, is there a motion to put to council in relation to Desheen? Councillor Natalie Aboud?
Yep. Thank you. So I'm just, I guess, looking for the words. Yep. Now, what I'm proposing is that is what is up there on the board. So there's a slight change. The amended point would be that we, A, remove the design funding in the Capital Works program for Desheen Reserve upgrade from $50,000 to $0, and B, reduce the allocation for Desheen car park upgrade in the Capital Works program from $1 million to $250,000 and rename the project Desheen Reserve Parking and Access Improvements. And if I have a seconder, I'm happy to talk to it.
Thank you, Councillor Irvin.
Thank you, Councillor Irvin. So this has been an amicable negotiation about repurposing that $1 million that was allocated for Desheen car park, and I want to credit Joe and Maria for meeting with me to talk about this stuff, because it turned out to be quite a juicy compromise. So what we absolutely do need to do down there is provide an accessible car park and a scenario where they don't have to drive down and then reverse out, which is just dangerous and kind of old-fashioned. And I think this is a really good way for us to reallocate a huge chunk of that money into a bunch of different things that we've been asked to do, and still deliver what is required of that car park.
Thank you, Councillor Aboud. Councillor Irvin.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, one of the things that I've really found interesting about the budget process is what we hear once the proposed budget goes out for community consultation. And we get so many submissions, so many emails and contact from people about projects that our community values and prioritises. And I think when we see that, we really, it's sort of within our responsibility to respond to that. And I think that making changes to the budget allocation like this allows us to fund a whole lot of other projects that we will be talking about shortly. But yes, I think it's a really worthwhile and responsive thing to do.
Thanks, Mick. Just a clarification or two. Just in the wording that you moved, Councillor Aboud and Councillor Irvin, it'd be really good if Part A was referred to as being in 25-26 and Part B was referred to as being in 26-27. That would be excellent. And just, councillors, you're voting on the red bits here. That's what you're voting on. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, does anybody else wish to comment on this proposed motion? No? If there's no further comments, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? I declare that carried. We can now call Councillor Yildiz back into the chamber. Okay. Now we do have to manage Councillor Politis's conflict of interest. So, Councillor Politis, if you could please remove yourself from the chamber, and we'll call you back once the vote has been carried out. Thank you. Okay, now we'll put the notice of motion on the screen so that it's visible for everyone. Okay, is there a councillor who wishes to move this notice of motion? Thank you, Councillor Theodosis. Motion, and Councillor Miles to second. Councillor Theodosis.
Happy to be putting this forward and to be supporting the Brunswick Beethoven Festival. I think music's just a really great way to bring people together, and in high school I was a very failed violinist, so obviously didn't continue my music career, but I do think music's a really wonderful way to bring people together, and it's a great way to celebrate artists and classical music, and it's a great program to have in our city. So, yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Theodosis. Councillor Miles.
Clockwork Orange is one of my favourite books, so I'm happy to support this. For anyone who gets that reference.
Okay, are there any further speakers? No, in that case, I'll put this to the vote. All those in favour? I declare that carried. We could now ask Councillor Politis to return to the chamber. Thanks, Councillor Politis. Now, councillors, we'll move to consider the entire budget. Yes, Councillor Irvin has her hand up. Councillor Irvin, do you wish to move?
Yes, just moving the amendment that I sent through, the latest version.
Yep, we can bring that up on the screen. And is there a seconder? Councillor Svensson.
Great.
Councillor Irvin.
And I'll just check, I guess this has had the changes made. Yes, as I mentioned earlier, reallocating funding really allowed us to respond to so many community submissions, and a lot of these items have come through to us through the budget submission process. And I think it's really important to be able to do this and to fund some really great programs. So I think the one that I'm sort of really excited about is allocating $500,000 for Bulert Maroop. So this is a request that came to us from the First Nations Advisory Committee. It is hopefully a co-contribution and will be matched by state funding. That is uncertain, so we're sort of putting in our part as requested. For those who aren't aware, Bulert Maroop is a site in Glenroy. It was the site of the Koori College that closed, and in 2012 there was a really huge community campaign to ensure that the state didn't sell that and that it was retained as land. And it's now used by the Wurundjeri as a special cultural site, and they're really hoping to establish first some temporary buildings to really activate that space and allow it to be used for cultural and social purposes, and then eventually to have sort of permanent facilities there. So that's sort of the main thing that I'm really excited about funding. As you can see, there are a lot of things that I won't get time to speak to, but this is really responding to what we heard through the community budget and those submissions that were made, and I hope that people can support them.
Thank you, Councillor Irvin. Councillor Svensson.
Thank you. As Councillor Irvin's already touched upon, there are lots and lots of different community organisations that we've put this amendment together to provide funding to. So I'm not going to have an opportunity to speak to every single one of them, although they're all incredibly worthwhile projects. But I'm just going to touch on a couple that really stand out to me. Firstly, what this amendment does is it seeks to increase funding to our library social worker program. So over the last 2 years, we've run a really successful pilot program out of the Coburg Library, where we've had a social worker who's been able to provide support to members of our community who are needing help with a range of different challenges that they might be facing, but also importantly, they've also provided support to our library staff as well. Because we know anyone who's had much to do with librarians knows that librarians kind of almost act a little bit like social workers in a way. They are incredible parts of our community and they provide a lot of support to a lot of different people, but they often don't have the training and support in order to do that. So this library social worker program also provides support to our staff as well. The trial, the feedback that we've had about it has been overwhelmingly positive from the service users who've used the service, from the staff, from our library staff who've been benefited, and from other community services around Merri-bek who've had their clients be supported through our service. I mean, and the support from the community for this program is really clear. There's a rally that I think is still taking place outside of Town Hall in support of this very program. So it's wonderful to see so many people turning out in support of a program that helps community members who are struggling and helps our library staff. So this amendment boosts funding to some already allocated funds in the budget so that the social worker can be employed full-time to keep providing those essential services to the community. I'm also really happy that this amendment provides funding to upgrade one of our community facilities called the Pigeon Club in Hadfield. As you can imagine, previously being a pigeon club, there was a lot of works that needed to be done in that building to make it fit for another organisation to take up the space, and that organisation is Nourishing Neighbours, who's going to be moving in there, and they're a local food relief service who provides an enormous amount of support to the members of our community who are struggling to access high quality nutritious food. Over the time they've been operating, which is only just a couple of years, they provided 700,000 kilos of food, which equates to 1.4 million meals for people in need. What we've heard is that unfortunately, due to a number of factors, this building isn't big enough for Nourishing Neighbours to operate out of, and they need an extension in order to be able to provide the amazing services that they have been to our community for several years. So we've put aside the money in order to get that extension built, and this means that Nourishing Neighbours will be able to keep doing the excellent work that they've been doing, because we've heard that without this extension, Nourishing Neighbours will have to shut down, which means hundreds of Merri-bek families going without the amazing support that the service provides.
Thank you, Councillor Svensson. Are there any further councillors who wish to speak in relation? Councillor Aboud?
Yeah, I'm just flagging that if this amended motion to the budget is lost, I'd like to foreshadow a slightly different motion.
Thank you, Councillor Aboud. You do have the opportunity to speak to that if you want to now.
I think I'll save time by not doing so yet.
No problem. Okay, Councillor Pulford.
Thank you, Mayor. I also want to speak up in support for this amendment. I think if this does fail, I'll support Councillor Aboud's alternative, or foreshadowed motion. Councillors Irvin and Svensson have highlighted some of the key differences between the two. I believe this motion's going to fail, so I'm not going to move an amendment about the hockey club to this one. So, councillors, if any other councillor is going to support this motion, surprisingly, please let me know, so I do move the hockey amendment to this this version. But otherwise, like Councillor Aboud, I won't move the hockey one to this one. I'll move it to the next one. But did want to speak up in support for the differences, which is the social worker program, and also Nourishing Neighbours. I think Vasey and her team of volunteers have done some incredible work, and there's been some unfortunate things happen, like the space was smaller than council thought, which means it would be a downsize for the organisation, which means they risk not being able to operate. So this extension is, I believe, really critical. But yes, should this fail, I'll move an amendment about hockey, bringing that forward to this year to the next thing that we debate.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Pulford. Are there any further speakers? Councillor Bolton?
Maybe people who are against this motion might actually explain what their viewpoints are. But I think probably some particular points in this motion, and this is an amended motion which came through fairly late in the day. Both of the alternative motions came through fairly late in the day. But certainly, probably there's several things I feel strongly about in this motion. There are a range of projects for all sorts of different groups within the Merri-bek area, including safety nets for some sporting clubs, but also I think the library social worker program is absolutely critical because it needs to be a full-time position. 5 libraries is too many to service. And basically, when there's inclement weather, the whole of humanity goes into the libraries because there's no other free place that you can sit out of the weather. And so, and a lot of work of other organisations has, like applying for, various government programs, etc., has gone into the libraries to seek librarians' support for filling out forms. So there's a lot that happens in the libraries that needs to be dealt with, and there are also people who are traumatised who've been affected by the cuts in other sorts of services. Secondly, nourishing neighbours. I think there's no level of government at the moment, not council, not state, not federal, that provides support with appropriate venues for emergency relief organisations. So one level of government needs to step up. And I think if that's council, so be it. It should be council, because we are in an incredible crisis where people don't have enough income to survive, and there's a real lack of services like this. And lastly, with the Ballot and Route project, there is a real risk of this site being sold off by the state government if money doesn't come through this year in order to provide some sort of infrastructure to allow more activities. And like with the sporting clubs, if council makes an investment or a grant, then that can be used as leverage to get grants from other levels of governments. Those are just some of the things, but there are many other important projects within the budget, and also including support for the Glenroy Men's Shed as well. I'll just leave it there.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bolton. If there's no further speakers, I'll put Councillor Irvin's proposed budget to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? I declare that lost. We'll now move to Councillor... Yes, we've been called for a division, so all those in favour, we have Councillor Svensson, Councillor Pulford, Councillor Bolton, Councillor Irvin, Councillor Iwasaki. All those against, we have Councillor Yildiz, Councillor Theodosis, Councillor Miles, Councillor Davidson, Councillor Abood and Councillor Politis. So we'll now move on to Councillor Abood's foreshadowed proposal, and we can bring that up on the screen.
Thank you, Mayor, and I can speak to it if I have a seconder.
Yeah, is there a seconder for Councillor Pulford?
Okay, so this looks a little bit more hectic than it is. We had 200 submissions to our budget from people in the community wanting us to spend it in a certain way. And we also had our own priorities that we needed to talk to and try to convince each other to support. And then there's stuff that just needed to be fixed, that just needed money allocated to it as well. So I guess the detail here is related to how and when. For me, the reason this is slightly different to what Councillor Irving has prioritised is that Shore Reserve at the West Coburg Football Club has an ongoing situation that requires $60,000 so that The football club can honour its sponsorship commitments, and it needs to move some stuff that's on a fence, which sounds like nothing, but it is something. And what it means is that because of the changes with the Desheen car park money and getting that $50,000 back and the surplus that we were left with, which was close to about $500,000, what I'm proposing to do is most of these things on the list in the 26-27 year rather than in the 25-6 year, because if you were following along, the $1 million from the car park that turns into 250 means we have 750 available in the second year to do a bunch of the stuff that was asked of us by the submissions and also our own priorities. I won't keep going on because I think that there are some amendments that will be proposed to what I'm putting forward.
Mayor, I'd like to withdraw from seconding so I can move my amendment.
I understand. Thank you, Councillor Pulford. Councillor Chris Miles will take over as seconder. Now, Councillor Miles, do you wish to speak?
Yeah, I'll be quick. As everyone knows, Belert Maroot's in my ward. I've heard a lot of people speak to me about it over the journey, and I truly believe it's a state issue. There's only so much that the council can do in regards to spending money because we've got rate caps. Other levels of government don't have caps on it. I'm happy to put this safety net in because I have strong. I'm sure that the state government will come in when it comes to the grant process to help the Wurundjeri people with this, because it is an important space, and I was elected very much supporting the Wurundjeri having that land back, and I do fully support that. But I do think there is limits to what Merri-bek can do. But I'm happy to support this safety net. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Miles. Are there any other speakers? You're speaking in opposition, is that? Oh, an amendment? Yep, okay. Councillor Bolton.
Oh, we've got an amendment for the social worker that we've figured out.
So, what's it? Sorry, I'm not sure. I wanted to propose that the library social worker be funded in the 2025-26 financial year. My computer's updating, so I can't send it through on my computer.
We have wording for that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I think that matches what I sent around. It's just $10,000 less.
Yep. Councillor,
I don't understand.
Councillor Abood, is that incorporated into your proposal?
What I'm wondering is if we can see the words that have been proposed to see if that's what Councillor Bolton is looking to achieve, because there was an amendment to the piece of work that's connected to the library that was circulated, and it might be what you're determining to do. So I'd just like to see the words before I work out.
Okay.
I'm simply proposing to shift the $85,000 that you've got in your motion to 25-26. That's my amendment.
Through you, Mayor, can I just clarify, are you offsetting that, Councillor Bolton, you're moving year one budget into deficit? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that for such a small amount.
There's an amendment we have that you can reduce the road resurfacing program.
So I will say that I can't incorporate what Councillor Bolton is talking about, only because I don't want to run at a deficit, but I'm happy to hear other proposals.
So that hasn't been incorporated into the substantive. So now, Councillor Bolton, do you wish to move your amendment and obtain a second?
Listen, I'll see what the wording is of the alternative amendment.
Okay. So I'll turn to Councillor Svensson.
So I'd like to move an alternative amendment that was circulated just now after we realised that unfortunately Liz's amendment would not pass. So I'd like to propose that we allocate $75,000 to the library social worker program in 25-26, and that money be allocated from the roads resurfacing budget. That's the wording that's been circulated around.
Is that agreeable to the mover?
Yes.
And the seconder? No. Okay, that's fine. So in that case, we'll need to debate the amendment.
Just stop for a tick.
Yep.
We could just...
Sure. Okay.
So that's right.
Can we just clarify? Is that right?
Yes.
CFO? Yeah.
Through the Mayor, so Councillor Boods has reducing road resurfacing by 25,000, and then this amendment is reducing it by 75,000. So that wording, offsetting point A, is correct. It's reducing it in total by 100,000.
Yeah.
So you move that. I guess
I'll second. This is the seconding for the overall.
No, this is the seconding in relation to. Sorry, this is the seconding in relation to.
Oh, the amendment. Okay, I'm happy to second the amendment. Yep.
So Councillor Spencer moved this.
Yes, and you're going to second it. Is that correct?
I'll second it. Yeah.
Okay. So, do you wish to speak to this, Councillor Spencer?
I'll keep this short because I've already spoken to the social worker program and how essential I think it is previously. Essentially what I'm doing here is trying to ensure as much as possible that we've got funding to employ a social worker for as much time as possible. The substantive motion here has a full-time social worker in the second year. However, I think that a disruption of having a part-time social worker in the first year and moving to a full-time social worker in the second year would be not only disruptive for the staff member themselves, the social worker, but also to our staff at the library who really rely on this service, and our community members who we've heard overwhelmingly have appreciated this service being provided. We've actually heard that the service is already being so well utilised that many people have wanted it to be expanded from being a full-time service. So I'm hopeful that in the future that might be something that we can consider here, but this amendment is just in the first year to provide as much funding as possible so that we can continue this absolutely essential program that I've already spoken to, so I'll leave it there.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Svensson. Councillor Bolton.
I'll reserve my right.
No problem. Councillor Abood.
Okay, so I just stand to speak in support of the amendment which was not supported by the seconder. The reason that I'm supportive of the amendment, this sounds very confusing, but we do know what's going on. When we contemplated Councillor Irvin's amended motion to our budget, it talked about that figure of 2,600,000 is acceptable for the capital works program, and it initially read as 2,675,000 because I felt like I only needed to reallocate 25,000 of it for the scenarios that I've got playing out here in this amendment. Now, what's happened in the last literally hour is that the importance of allocating the funding for the social worker program, which I had included in year 2, was put to me as being as important in year 1. And I realised, because of what we heard from the director, that we can absorb the $100,000 reduction from 2,700,000 to 2,600,000, which means we can make the 75,000 available for the social worker program at the libraries. So, and I am supportive of the social worker program at the libraries. Initially it was funded to the tune of 50,000, and this will take it up to 135,000, which means it can be a full-time role. So although it is moving quickly, I am supportive of the amendment, this particular amendment that's been put to the amended motion regarding the budget.
Thank you, Councillor Abood. Are there any further speakers?
Yep.
Yep, Councillor Yildiz and then Councillor Politis.
Just a couple of things that I just want to highlight that the public may not know, but in terms of allocating the $15,000 for Beethoven, this is just, I guess, the...
Councillor Yildiz, are you speaking to the amendment?
No, the substantive... Oh, sorry, we're
No.
still on the amendment. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Does the amendment include option... No?
No, the
Not yet.
amendment
Okay,
is
yep.
just in relation to the funding for social worker, removing funding from the roads, resurfacing program. So in that case, hold that and I'll turn to Councillor Politis.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm very much in favour of a social worker program, and there has been a budget allocation for that. I spend significant amounts of time in that library, and I do believe that there is a need for those services. I also see other strong support services that we've got in place, which meet community needs for safety. And on the subject of safety, I think one of the most responsible things that we can do as councillors is ensure that our roads are safe. And therefore, I'm not in favour of any budget cuts being made to the Capital Works program for our roads.
Thank you, Councillor Politis. Councillor Miles.
Yeah, we spent a long time on council talking about active transport safety, and my major concerns is I used to cycle quite a lot up until my back gave out, is potholes and the effect not only it has on cyclists, but the fact that it causes cars to move randomly because they're trying to avoid potholes. I think this goes against so much of what we talk about when our safe transport and our active transport is to cut this money out of this resurfacing. I just can't support that. Sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Miles. Councillor Bolton and then Councillor Iwasaki.
Earlier this year, the council started spending big time on security guards in the Coburg Mall and around the Coburg Library. And way more than the cost of a full-time social worker would cost to be employed at the library. And this social worker isn't just for the Coburg Library, it's for 5 libraries, which actually is an enormous amount of work for a social worker. And yes, I can certainly understand the points about the road resurfacing, because I think, roads are for everyone and there is a safety issue. But I would prefer to spend more money on a social worker rather than lots of security guards in the Coburg Mall, because there is a need. So many services are being cut, and library staff who are not trained to be social workers are expected to act like a social worker. That is crazy. They should be paid spectacular amounts of money to be both library staff workers as well as social workers, but they're not trained. So there needs to be a social worker at the library. Some other libraries in other parts of Australia are employing 2 social workers, one to provide staff support and one to provide support for clients, people who are library users who are in special need. And I think this is like an absolute priority because people are dropping through the gaps. People who are traumatised might act out in antisocial ways, and so we actually need to have a social worker response to these situations. So I feel quite strongly the trial, which went for 2 years, was a big success, and also some other services such as Vincent Care and Merri Health are saying that the social worker provided had a really beneficial impact on their clients as well, because it was sort of like it was a partnership kind of arrangement without being a formal partnership, just social workers and health workers collaborating. And I think this is really important. We can't just fund security guards. We need to fund a service to assist people who are using the library and to settle down any problematic situations that might occur.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton. Councillor Iwasaki.
Thank you. Just want to really reiterate this amount is really important social investment in Merri-bek, and something that has shown a lot of success from trials that we shouldn't ignore. And it may have been possible to find alternate funding, but in the amount that we're looking for, this is such a small amount taken out of the resurfacing program, a very small amount to have basically no impact on road safety whatsoever. I'd be very concerned if we were cannibalizing our road surfacing as someone who uses our roads in every capacity, driving, cycling, walking on sidewalks. But to say this is any risk to road safety is, I don't think it makes any sense. I don't see that. But it offers huge benefits in terms of what can be provided and what has been shown to be provided.
Thank you, Councillor Iwasaki. Are there any further speakers? Councillor Politis, you have spoken previously on this? Yeah, so you're unable to speak again.
Thank you, Mayor.
No problem. So if there's no... Councillor Svensson. Yes, you do.
I'm just going to add a very small point. I think Sue already touched on this, but something that I didn't bring up about the social worker is we know, I mean, I'm sure everybody in this room has felt it, that people are struggling more at the moment, and we're seeing an increase in things like antisocial behaviour, and there is an increase in certain types of crime, and people are concerned about community safety. And what we know from literally decades and decades of evidence is what actually works to increase community safety is investing in our social services, investing in support for people who are struggling. So if you want to see a safer community, investing in services like this is how we achieve that. So I see this as part of building a safer community, a more supportive community, and a more connected community for everybody.
Thank you, Councillor Svensson. I'll put the amendment to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? Sure. I declare that carried, and we have all those in favour: Councillor Svensson, Councillor Pulford, Councillor Abood, Councillor Bolton, Councillor Irvin, Councillor Iwasaki. All those against, we have Councillor Yildiz, Councillor Theodosis, Councillor Miles, Councillor Davidson, and Councillor Politis. We'll now return to the substantive motion, and this has now been incorporated into the substantive. Okay. So are there any further speakers, people who haven't spoken in relation to the substantive? And Councillor Yildiz.
Yeah, just a couple of things further to what I was saying before about allocating $120,000 towards Morris Reserve, $150,000 in the strategic priorities for the stage 2 of the feasibility study for McDonald's Reserve, allocating $150,000 to the strategic priorities for the Coburg Basketball Stadium or the feasibility study, $50,000 in the Capital Works program for a shade at Glenroy Bowls, allocating $100,000 to the Capital Works program for a catch net at Jackson Reserve, $10,000 in Capital Works program for ATC Cook shelter drainage issues, $20,000 for Brentwood Kindergarten in Pascoe South for sale for the kids during winter. They're a kindergarten. $75,000 in the Capital Works program for the Glenroy Men's Shed upgrade, on top of all the other initiatives that Council is funding. I think these showstoppers, especially for those people in the public gallery now, I'm sure this is music to your ears. It is, I think, a great addition, and I'm fully in support of it. But I just want to highlight something, Madam Mayor, that the point 3 about Bulert Maroop, I will not be supporting that. I just want to indicate why. I believe it's not our role. I believe that it's not about being insensitive to our Indigenous people, but I think there'd be a lot of people in our community that want us to focus on the core services that Council provides. I believe whether it's today, whether it's next year, I don't think we should be using any funds going towards any project that the state government really should be funding. And hence the reason why I'd like that point 3, to be voted on separately, and I will not be supporting it.
Thank you, Councillor Yildiz. So when we come to vote on the motion, we will remove that and vote on the entirety of Councillor Abood's motion, save for the Bullet Maroot item, and then we'll have a separate vote on the Bullet Maroot item. Councillor Pulford.
I'd like to move an amendment to bring forward the stage 1 of the McDonald Reserve construction to this financial year, the $3.5 million.
Councillor Bolton to second. Councillor Pulford.
Sorry, it doesn't, if it's incorporated, it won't need a seconder.
can we have a separate vote on this for the clubs? Because they can, so don't, if you cannot accept it, and then vote.
Won't accept that.
So yeah, so if it's projected, yeah. So this, should I just speak to it?
Yes, yeah.
So hi everyone, thank you for your patience as we've been working out our budget for the next 4 years. What an incredible turnout from the Brunswick Hockey Club, and it just shows the strength of your club. Yeah, clap for yourselves, yeah. It shows the strength of your club and also your club's leaders and the incredible work they've done to get to this point. So this amendment that I'm moving to the budget tonight would effectively, it brings forward the 3.5 million allocated to building the new pitch at McDonald Reserve to this financial year. While there's a lot of work that needs to happen on council's end to get to that construction ready phase, there's a chance, if things go well, that it could be before the end of this coming financial year. So we've heard from the hockey club, we've heard from your leader, I think it's President Dean, or maybe that's a... Sorry, maybe that's a promotion. We've heard from Dean, and a couple of reasons for this change. One is it could be ready, but two, there's a state election next year. The second stage of McDonald Reserve is not funded at the moment, and so it's a big window of political opportunity there to try and get funding commitments from different sides of politics during the election campaign. And the other reason is that there aren't many new hockey pitches being set to be built in Melbourne over the next year, which means we might get a decent price. So thank you very much to everyone in the club who's raised these points with us. I think I'm expecting strong support for this amendment tonight. We're keeping it separate so that you can show the strong support from across the political spectrum when it votes, assuming lots of people vote for it. And the technical change here is where we were going to put $3.5 million away for the new Coburg Library and Piazza project, which is a really important project in the heart of Coburg, which would be a stone's throw from the new hockey pitch. But we're proposing that we'd put that aside next year because the hockey pitch had been funded in next year. So it's just moving things around, and hopefully that means that we can make the most of this chance, and if we're ready to get started building before the end of this financial year, we can start construction. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pulford. And the seconder was Councillor Bolton, was that? No,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
Councillor Bolton.
Hi everybody, it gives me a lot of pleasure to support the hockey pitch coming forward to this coming financial year. I think the club has put forward an excellent case as to why this is necessary, both for getting access to state and federal grants, but also because there aren't many hockey pitches being built in this coming financial year, so it means council might be able to get a good deal. And I think that, I'm very aware of the fact that Brunswick Hockey Club has grown so spectacularly. Now, I know lots of sports clubs have grown, but I know Brunswick Hockey Club has grown very spectacularly, and so there's a real need for this project to come forward as fast as possible. So I hope this gets voted up by everybody.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton. Councillor Aboud and then Councillor Politis.
Yes, I'd like to speak to this proposed amendment that I rejected in support, but I will also mention, I hope these people aren't going to try and tell you that sport gets too much money in a few minutes, okay? So this is a pretty big deal. It's had some incredible momentum, and what I want to make sure happens, even though I am supporting this, is that the traffic that will be, the traffic in this neighbourhood is already an issue. Make sure that the traffic, everybody who's involved, is dealt with appropriately, and that you have the right level of parking or the right relationships with people who can give you access to car parks. Don't pretend you're all going to ride bikes to hockey, because who's ever seen anyone with a hockey stick on the back of a bike? And don't, all right. I haven't seen you. Oh, you're saying you've seen each other, maybe. Anyway, that's good. About 20% of you ride a bike with your hockey stick. That's good. For everyone else who's in a car, make sure there's somewhere to park it. Make sure you respect, especially when you're playing against teams who are coming from elsewhere. That is somebody's neighbourhood, and it already has issues with the traffic. The tennis, the pickleball, there's a lot of stuff that's going to happen that is going to make the whole neighbourhood a lot busier. There's a lot of people that stand to benefit from it, not the least you guys.
Thank you, Councillor Abood. Councillor Politis.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm very happy to support this amendment and stand in support of the Brunswick Hockey Club. The club is 103 years old, I got told by Dean today, who is actually not the president, but probably one of the strongest advocates for community sport that I know. And community sport matters because it's what they bring to the community. It's the connection. It's about bringing people of all abilities together, and no one does it better than this hockey club. They've got, I think, 38 teams. They've got a junior team, and they've even got a team of over 60s. That's the age, over 60. And in fact, I think I see one of their players in the audience. Ed, put up your hand, yep, which is a wonderful thing. And this club can actually boast having the oldest goalkeeper in Australia, who was goalkeeping for them at the age of 86. I mean, that is to be celebrated. I also love the fact that every year they pick 15 kids under the age of 15 to be community connectors and to go out into the community and to support other children to get involved in the hockey club and to play sport, and that is a wonderful thing. And I think Dean gave me the calculation of hours that delivers, the hours of community benefit that has delivered over the years, and I think, Dean, you said 8,000 hours of community benefit. If I'm misquoting you, I'm sorry, but it was about that. So anyway, I think it's a wonderful club. Keep doing your good thing, and I'm very, very pleased to support this amendment.
Great. Thank you very much, Councillor Politis. I saw Councillor Miles, and then I'll turn to Councillor Iwasaki.
Yeah, as I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all the hard work Lambros Tapanos did in the lead up to this. It's a shame he's not here today. He's sunning himself on a beach in Greece. Well deserved. So I really want to thank him for all the hard work he put in to get Brunswick Hockey Club where it is, and he did a lot of great work for that club. But I'd like to also thank all the hard work that the Brunswick Hockey Club's done to get themselves to be so popular that they need more space. I mean, that just goes to show what a great club Brunswick Hockey Clubs is. And on one thing, I'll just say one last thing to Dean: don't send me any more Zoom invites. We're not... No, all good. Thank you, Dean, for all the hard work you did. Oh, thank you.
And next we have Councillor Iwasaki.
I guess I'll have to give Dean a new title, maybe Professor Dean, for the slideshow that I got. And yeah, I'm very appreciative of not just diversity in people, but diversity in sport. And I think the case that put forward by historic underfunding in this sport in particular is really, really important, that we can make this happen quicker and more holistically. It's great to see it. Everybody here today, and just thank everybody for all the inclusivity and wonderful welcoming nature that I haven't seen a game, but Dean's really given us so much context, and I'm looking forward to it actually.
Thank you, Councillor Iwasaki. Councillor Yildiz, and then I saw Councillor Svensson and then Councillor Yildiz. Go ahead, Councillor Svensson.
I'm also among a lot of happy people supporting this amendment, but I'm personally really happy to provide support as well. I think it wasn't until talking to Dean that I realised just how much the club is absolutely bursting at the seams with, it seems like there is barely enough space for the people who are currently playing to train, let alone the scores of people who want to join, which is a real testament to the club, testament to the volunteers, testament to the culture and community that you've created. I think the fact that you've fit 38 teams, is it, if I've got that correct, on just one pitch is absolutely amazing. So I think the sooner we can build you all another space, the better. And I think something that makes me really proud to support Brunswick Hockey Club is, I think, seeing how much the club is committed to inclusivity and building community. Not just training great players, I mean, you obviously do that, but that it's about giving back to the community as well. And I think that's absolutely fantastic. I was lucky enough to be able to do the coin toss to start off the senior women's game for the Pride round this last Saturday, and it was absolutely amazing seeing those women play on the pitch. I think it was no surprise to me seeing the culture in the community on the pitch that day that Brunswick Hockey Club are absolutely smashing their targets when it comes to gender inclusivity. I mean, I hope I've got it right, that over half of the teams are women and girls. Not a lot of sports clubs throughout Merri-bek can boast to that. I mean, we want everybody to feel like they have a place on the pitch, at a club, in the community. And I think Brunswick Hockey Club is really leading the way in a lot of that work. I mean, I really hope that we see more and more sports clubs following suit where there's anybody who wants to get out and play feels like they've got a space. So I'm incredibly happy to support you guys and hope I can make it to a few more games.
Thank you, Councillor Svensson. Councillor Yildiz.
Thank you. Way back in 2008, I remember having a meeting with John and a few of the committee members down at Wiley Reserve. From there, you've ended up at Dawson Street. Just so some councillors may not know, but one of only 3 Victorian hockey clubs that are still standing and still existing. 1923 founded, almost closed or collapsed back in the 1990s. 15 junior teams are expected this year, 6 teams from Vic League, right, League 2 to Metro 2, senior women's active since 1977, and that's actually a testament because there aren't too many hockey clubs that have so much active engagement with women. Masters and international students you have these and you do attract them. It's very inclusive, it's a very social club, it's a very responsible club. And yes, Dean has been advocating and lobbying us ethically and in the right way, and I want to thank you for that. WhatsApp messages at 2 a.m. What are you doing, mate? Seriously. But anyway, 8 matches this year, 3 goals, and you've got 0 cards. And that, again, just reflects on the type of people that are involved in your club. And if there are, I'm a massive supporter of sport and, yes, have played hockey, and I know what are some of the values you need to be able to keep such a club going, and you guys meet every single one of those. So I feel absolutely honoured to be able to support this tonight.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Yildiz. Are there any further speakers? No. Well, I think sitting here as Mayor, thank you for coming this evening. It's lovely to see you all. And given the amount of support in this chamber, I think we all deserve an invitation to come and watch one of your games or even a training session together. So on that note, I'll put Councillor Pulford's amendment to the vote. All those in favour? I declare that carried unanimously. So congratulations. Well done. So this is now incorporated into the substantive motion for Councillor Aboud's amendment for the budget. We'll now return to debating the substantive motion. Councillors, is there anybody else who wishes to speak? Councillor Bolton.
I'd like to say something, unless we have an opportunity to talk to point 3 on ballot Merri-bek later on, or should I talk about that now?
I would speak about that now. Yeah.
Okay. Now, the ballot Merri-bek project for a cultural centre and a centre of activity and cultural transfer on the former Aboriginal school site is clearly a project in support of the Aboriginal community, both the traditional owners as well as Aboriginal people living off country. But it is also a mistake to see this as purely a project for First Nations people, because this site is widely used by the Glenroy community. And in fact, the local federal MP for Broadmeadows regularly walks, uses the site as a park, along with many other members of the community. If this site is lost, this will not just be a loss for the First Nations community, this will be a loss for the entire Glenroy community, or especially that north-central part of the Glenroy community. It's also a loss for the Nepalese community, who've got a close association now with the Ballot-Maroop site, who regularly participate in the tree planting programs there, and also regularly support the Ballot-Maroop Open Days. So I think it is a mistake if councillors think, oh, this is just a little side project, pat on the head for First Nations people. It's actually very important for First Nations people as modern Aboriginal cultural history, but it's also important for the broader community. So this is intended as an inclusive project, because that is what how First Nations people work, as inclusive projects. They're part of the community. It is really no different to sporting clubs, where you put in some money from council, and as we've just voted for the Brunswick Hockey Club, you put in money from council, and that actually gives courage and confidence that it's a supported project, and so federal and state then come in with money. So far, the state government has refused to fund this in the state budget, despite the local federal MP putting in a submission for $500,000. They said that the title isn't certain. It was the response of the state government. That worries me, that when the lease comes up for renewal next year, we don't know if it'll come up for renewal in the term of this government or after there's a new government, which
Councillor
may
Bolton, you've
or
had
may
3
not.
minutes.
I'll just finish on this sentence. But there is a real possibility that this site might be sold off by the state government, whether Liberal or Labor. So I think if we want to secure this site for the community, we need to facilitate some all-weather portable accommodation, including a toilet, so that people can organise more of a range of activities on the site. That's it.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers in relation to the substantive budget? Councillor Iwasaki.
I just want to acknowledge maybe the 3 or 4 people who did the most amount of work on this, who we're not necessarily working together, we're working in parallel in a lot of cases. So first, of course, the officers have done the bulk of the work, including getting these amendments in and throwing things around and actually doing the math that checks out properly. But yeah, Councillor Irvin did an immense amount of work trying to find funding for every single project that was feasible, in conjunction with Councillor Abood, who was doing something similar, where we're trying to also coordinate on, what works together, what we could try to smooth as simplest, for tonight as possible, but it doesn't always work out that way. But there was a lot of work, a lot of phone calls, and Councillor Svensson as well, who was also running around like crazy trying to make everything work. So everything that you're seeing basically on the screen today has been a lot of work and attention by Councillor Abood, Councillor Irvin, Councillor Svensson, and also Sue Bolton, who was also on the phone a lot. So I just want to acknowledge those people as really driving this, and I'm really grateful because I have not had the time to be as supportive, but I'm so grateful to have this work and dedication on council from these 4 people specifically.
Thank you, Councillor Iwasaki. Councillor Svensson.
I'm just going to quickly speak, because I know I spoke in the initial amendment, but I also want to add my support for Ballot-Maroop. I think excellent points have been made already, but I think we all know that Merri-bek has made repeated commitments to working alongside First Nations people for truth, treaty and justice. But we also all know that commitments and words don't mean a lot if you don't actually put concrete resources behind them. We can say all of the great things, but actually in this budget, without this money for Bulurt Maroop, there is no additional funding put in place to aside from our business as usual, there's no additional funding put in place to actually shore up that commitment, to ensure that we are actually working towards reconciliation. So even on its own, without all of the other awesome reasons in terms of attracting funding from the state, in terms of trying to shore up, getting that land transferred to the Wurundjeri people so they have true self-determination, there's also worth in voting for this just because it is, I think, it is incumbent upon us to back up our words and our commitment to First Nations people with actual concrete action. And I think this is a fantastic way to show that.
Thank you, Councillor Svensson. Councillor Pulford and then Councillor Politis. Thank you. You go ahead, Councillor Pulford, yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I've spoken a bit tonight as well, but I just wanted to speak to the budget as a whole. So I think this is the 5th budget I've been involved with at Merri-bek, and I think it's been the most complicated in the sense that it felt like there's been a lot more, while there's always huge community need, it feels like there's been a lot more kind of quite desperate, like now community need. And I guess that's partly the extended cost of living crisis that people have been in, but also, and so there's organisations who are needing to provide more support, but also costs have been up across the board. So organisations are coming to us saying projects are more expensive. And I do just want to kind of echo some of Councillor Iwasaki's points about how much collaboration there was amongst councillors to try and make sure different people's projects could get funded. So some things I wanted to mention, we're continuing to invest in greening our city. We're made sure there's about just under $500,000 for continuing our urban forest strategy, increasing tree canopy, which is good for wildlife, good to cool the community, which is especially important in the climate crisis. We're continuing to support older people to get help for managing their gardens at home. We're continuing our grants to low-income earners to either get solar on their roofs to help cut their power bills and cut their emissions, or to make thermal efficiency upgrades to their homes, which again cuts emissions, good for climate, cuts power bills, good for people who are doing it tough or on low incomes. We're continuing to support youth projects, youth holistic outreach program, which is make sure we have workers in our community reaching out to the young people who are also doing it tough. We've supported that project for a number of years now, and I'm pleased we're continuing to support it. We're boosting local grants to local artists. We're a very creative city here in Merri-bek, and we've had our officers point out to us that in the past our arts grants program has been less than some of our neighbouring councils, and so we've been trying to progressively boost that up to make sure we are supporting our local artists. And we've heard from the community that there's concern about graffiti, and one of the ways that we're helping to address that is by doubling the funding for the Renewal Mural program. That's a program that council runs where if there's a wall in our community that's been really targeted by graffiti artists, we actually book a local artist to create something beautiful on that wall, and people are less likely to tag a beautiful piece of art than just a blank wall. There's also some really great investment going on in our active transport infrastructure, which again, our community is really passionate about. That's probably all I have time to say, but very happy to support this budget, and just wanted to thank councillors for their work and council officers for their work. And thank you to community members who've spoken up about what you think is important for us to fund too.
Thank you, Councillor Pulford. Yes, Councillor Bolton?
This is my amendment. The wording for it is the wording that Gemma sent around when you sent around all the motions. This is about ATC Cook Reserve. I haven't got the word because my computer's been updating most of the night, so it's been a bit hard for me to find the bit. But it's basically that if funding, the essence of it is that if funding when we, mid-year review or whatever, when we look at the budget, if funding becomes available, we could shift the drainage works for the ATC Cook Reserve forward. So, so the wording is for the 2025-26 financial year, brings forward the allocation of $10,000 in the capital works program for ATC Cook shelter drainage issues in the quarterly forecast process if surplus funds are available. So if they don't become available, we revert to what's in the motion of just funding this in the 26-27 financial year. But if something becomes available, we look at spending it on fixing up ATC Cook Reserve, the shelter, which is a shelter for everyone. It's especially used by seniors in the Nepalese community. Around 50 odd people, 30 to 50 people use that shelter in the mornings and the evenings, but also lots of other members of the community use it as well. That's it.
Is that incorporated into the substantive?
Yes, I have no problem with that, thank you.
And Councillor Miles? Oh, no,
No,
if it's incorporated into the substantive.
Oh, yes, sorry. No.
I can't read your mind.
No, sorry. I was thinking I want to speak to this, but I was like, how did you know I want to speak to this? Can I speak to,
So you agree to it being
I agree to it. I think it's great. I accept that. It's a beauty.
Great. Okay, so now that's incorporated into the substantive. You've already hang on. You've already spoken to the substantive. Now, are there any, Councillor Yildiz?
Just be clear, so point 3 of the substantive motion about retaining the surplus of 503,000 in the view that it's not being allocated by a future council resolution, or there's no further funding for Bulurt Maroop, then council would, if the state government wasn't able to fund it, we would then, where's that? Because
that is in Councillor Aboud's motion.
So have we separated that portion?
We will separate it at the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're almost there?
We're almost there.
I just don't want to, because I want to vote against it, that's all.
Right, Mayor, just to clarify, it's still part of the same motion and it will be
Yes.
voted on separately as allowed for. That clause of the motion will be voted on separately as allowed for under the governance rules.
Okay. Are there any, Councillor Theodosis?
Thank you. I just wanted to touch on something that is being added that I'm very happy about, which is setting aside a surplus for the Glenroy Men's Shed, which I think provides a really important social connection through different things like woodwork projects and local repair cafes. So I'm just really happy to see that in there and support it.
Definitely. Thank you, Councillor Theodosis. Are there any further councillors that wish to speak to this proposal? Councillor Aboud?
Can I just ask, do I have a right of reply considering that Councillor Yildiz is speaking against point 3?
Let me clarify that. Hang on. Yes, you do. But at the end of the debate. Well, we are, but I would like to say a few words as well. Sorry. Okay, so I think we can all see how much consideration, time and effort has gone into bringing about our 4-year budget. I think every councillor has contributed immensely, whether it's from the beginning where we all sat down together and decided what the priorities were, from the discussions with the officers in relation to the capital works and the operational budget, through to the wonderful community engagement that we've had, where we received, I think it was over 1,000 locals voting for the projects they wanted to see fund. So in particular, I think the question that we all ask ourselves when we come to this difficult task is how do we continue to deliver exceptional services and infrastructure that our community relies on, while also staying financially responsible and fair across the community. And fairness is a really important part to pick up on. So this budget ensures that we can continue to deliver what matters most, that's those essential services, roads, infrastructure, parks and open space, while also having room for innovation and community-led ideas. So I'm particularly proud of the amount of interest that we had from the community in relation to their engagement with community ideas. Initially, we set aside $250,000 for this, but because of the overwhelming interest, we increased that to over $300,000. I think some of the key points to point out is our spending. So we have a capital works program for 25-26 of $90.5 million to improve community infrastructure and maintain community assets. We have improvements to parks, open space and streetscapes at $12.8 million, roads and car parks renewal maintenance at $27.3 million, footpaths, bicycle paths and transport infrastructure at $6.7 million. Huge amounts of funding going into these core operational projects. And as well, we have other projects. So I know Councillor Pulford mentioned supporting seniors at home. That's incredibly meaningful, and we've doubled our funding on that because we know how important it is and we know how much it matters. We've got the Coburg Basketball feasibility study. The Glenroy Bowls Club is in there. Brentwood Kindergarten, the Glenroy Neighbourhood House, as Kat Theodosis mentioned. All so many worthwhile projects that we've really had to consider and budget for. So we've listened, responded and investing where we believe the community needs it and what we've heard back from the community. And we're looking ahead. We have $60 million for the Coburg Library and the Piazza project. We're continuing to invest in sustainable transport and spending more than $27 million on maintaining and upgrading our roads network. So budgets can be really technical, but they're really about values as well. And the values in this budget are clear. It's equitable, it's sustainable, it's caring for our community and putting the values of the community first. We know we can't fund everything, and that's always the hard part. And I think that you've seen the tensions here in delivering a budget that is fair and sustainable. I think this budget represents a strong, considered, balanced approach that looks after people today while also planning for what our future community looks like. So I'd like to thank Gemma for her guidance in balancing this, the executive and, of course, our CEO, Kathy Henderson, every one of you here around this table, and also the wonderful community engagement that we've had. We appreciate all the community engagement, whether we're agreeing or not agreeing. So on that note, I'll put...
I just have a quick question of clarification.
Yes,
if
of
that's
course.
Okay.
Yep.
I was just a tad confused, and this may just be, apologies if I'm just misinterpreting something. I know that we have the wording in the substantive motion about retaining the $15,000 for the Glenroy Men's Shed in the case that they need that as a contribution
Yes.
in order to attain a state government grant.
Yeah.
But we also have the money requested from the Glenroy Men's Shed above as well. My understanding, so it kind of looks like we're funding it, but also we're holding the money aside for the state government to fund it, which kind of makes them incompatible.
We're funding it in the second year, and the 15,000 is only for the first year, right?
Is that how it works, or?
Look, sorry.
Can we, hang on, so what number is that, Ella? Gemma,
Thank you. Through the Mayor, so in the item highlighted on the screen, which is for year 2, so 26-27, we're allocating it in the Capital Works program. And then if we're retaining the surplus, that's if the Glenroy Men's Shed is successful for the grant, they need a 20% contribution, and we would keep the surplus aside to give them that 20%.
So,
And then
so through you, Mayor, they're different financial years.
Yeah. Yeah, and so then the funding in the second financial year wouldn't go ahead because they wouldn't need it.
Yeah, correct.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Councillor Abood?
Yeah, so I'm just checking if it's okay with you if I take the right of reply just to talk about the point 3 again.
Yes.
Yeah. So I want to, sometimes I talk about people being engaged with council and consultations and how, you know, we encourage people to let us know what they're thinking, what the priorities are and all that sort of thing. So I want to thank everybody who's emailed me about the Bulurt-Maroop situation, and also admit that I probably didn't read about 40 of the emails because there were so many, but that it was something that I'd always planned to support, and it was something that I really hope that we would all support, because I was reminded yesterday that 8 years ago, for the first time ever, a group of Wurundjeri elders in the most magnificent possum skin cloaks addressed the Parliament in Wurundjeri language and English to explain their connection to the Yarra River and the importance of protecting the river and, you know, the lands of the river, so that we could sort of understand better what impact the invasion of us colonisers have had on this land. And since then, the First Nations people in this country have suffered through the referendum. In 2017, in this place in September, I remember it like it happened yesterday, we had a great big omnibus motion that resulted in us being invaded in our meetings by a bunch of passionate patriots. And it's definitely the first and only time I've ever seen anybody in a nylon Australian flag onesie, and I hope that never happens again. But what I really stand to do is implore all of us, and I mean you as well, Councillor Yildiz, to support this $500,000 for the Bulurt-Maroop site. I think that compared to the $3.5 million that we've just allocated, it's a really valuable way for us to understand that this tiny amount of funding can make a very realistic and meaningful difference to the plight of the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people who were here when we got here. And I think it will help us all go forward together. So I just wanted to, just put my voice to the importance of all of this work that we've organised with this big motion, but also that from the get-go I really felt like it was important that we would maybe be able to all support this work together.
Thank you, Councillor Abood. Yes. So, Councillor Yildiz, we will now vote on point 3 of Councillor Abood's motion in relation to Bulurt-Maroop. So,
sorry, can we just bring the right clause up?
Thank you. Okay, councillors, we'll vote on point 3, which is now up on the screen. So all those in favour? I declare that carried. All those against? I declare that carried, and Councillor Yildiz to vote against. Yep, no problem. Let's put our hands up for all those in favour. Councillor Theodosis, Councillor Svensson, Councillor Pulford, Councillor Miles, Councillor Davidson, Councillor Politis, Councillor Iwasaki, Councillor Irvin, Councillor Bolton and Councillor Abood. And all those against? Councillor Yildiz. Now we'll return to the body.
Mayor, can I just clarify, although the debate tonight has focused on amendments under part 1 of the officer recommendation, when this substantive motion was moved, there's also, a few pages of the officer recommendation that was also moved at that time that's embedded in this. So it's the full, includes formally declaring the rate levies and annual service charges for the 25-26 rating year, and all of those details onwards as well.
Yes, thank you, Kathy. Okay, we'll now put the remainder to the vote. All those in favour? I declare that carried unanimously. Yeah. Okay, we'll now move on to the second item on our agenda. We're still going, which is the endorsement of the draft Merri-bek Community Vision and Draft Council Plan for 2025 to 2029 for public consultation. Is there a Councillor Abood to move, and we have a seconder? Councillor Bolton to second. Councillor Abood, do you wish to speak to it?
It's a draft. Engage with it.
Brilliant. Councillor Bolton.
Yes, I'd like to second that this is the council plan going up for community consultation. So it's really important for people to contribute their ideas and tell council if it's going on the right track or the wrong track, or the track needs to be amended or rerouted. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you, Councillor Bolton. Are there any further speakers? If there's no further speakers, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? I declare that carried unanimously as well. And on that note, I will declare the council meeting closed at 7:25. Thank you, councillors, and those still live